When we moved to Taos, my mother bought an absolutely charming but very small house, a one-bedroom adobe that was in the bottom of the Ranchos Valley, in the floodplain, which, people who have lived here for a while know not to build in the floodplain. We didn't really get that. And so there was a flood, the spring of 1973, a huge flood that flooded our property beautifully. So our apple orchard was completely underwater when the apple trees were blooming, which for me, as an 8-year-old, was magical and beautiful. But, it did some damage. And then we got flood relief money, which was fortuitous because we had this very small house. My mother had 3 children. We had 1 bedroom. My mother lived in her bedroom was a little alcove off the kitchen. But my mother took the flood relief money and built bedrooms for all of us kids.
So we started with goats, and they were so cute, and I would, got to bottle feed them and all that kind of stuff and raise them from little kids and everything. I hated goat milk though. Like, my mom would try every trick in the book to get me to drink that stuff. And I just hated it. I don't know why, because I just recently, it's taken me this many years to try it again. And as an adult, I think it's fantastic. Pigs, it was an interesting thing to raise your own meat. My little sister to this day won't eat pork because when we were kids, she loved pork chops. And one day she asked at the dinner table, "Oh, where does pork come from?" And I said, "The freezer." And she says, "Well, where does it come from before that?" And then I told her, "Well, this is," and we named our pigs, which is a bad thing. "This is, so-and-so." And when she finally pieced it all together, she never ate pork again, like in her entire life.
And I have a story in my memoir about they punished me for speaking Spanish, which of course is the language that I grew up speaking and didn't know any English. And the principal, who was also the math teacher, ordered me to write, "I will not speak Spanish 500 times." And I knew that if I wrote that sentence 500 times, it would take up most of my Big Chief tablets, and I would have no tablet left to write my assignments or whatever. And so I wrote one sentence and handed that in, and that caused the principal to summons my mother. Anyway, the principal didn't find my response of writing one sentence instead of 500. "I will not speak Spanish 500 times. And she told them to quit bothering her, that I spoke Spanish because that was my language, and until I was taught English, that they should take responsibility for their actions and not be so punitive."
I remember one specific winter and I remember this because, for 2 reasons. My father was herding sheep in Wyoming, and he said that winter the sheep froze on top of trees in Wyoming because there was so much snow. In our case, we lived in this piece of property, and then my brother had bought another piece of property further above, so we keep our cows and horses up there because it was better grazing and better corrals. So it was our job to go from our property to that property to feed our animals, because that's where the hay was. We had the hay stacked there. And this particular winter, it had snowed so much and frozen so solid that we could walk on top of the snow without crossing fences. Ordinarily, we had to scoop through the barbed wire fences, about 6 different fences to get to the animals. That winter, we just walked on top of the snow. It was amazing. There was that much snow. The fences are, 5 feet tall? I haven't seen that ever again. And most definitely, the snowfalls are way, way smaller now.
At night at Taos Pueblo, it opened up the stars and everything that you see every night. My sister was amazed. She was younger than me, 5, 6 years old, and she looks up at night when we moved to Taos Pueblo, and she asked me, "What are those?" And I had to explain to her, "Those are stars." Wow, I've never seen them like that. So many stars out there, the Milky Way, and she was just amazed, and I was too. City life was all lights and noise, and it was a shock to me. And to open it up, to open my eyes was pretty amazing for me. And, with the climate, a lot of snow at that time in late 70s, even coming to visit, during Christmas time, winter time, was a shock for me, a lot of snow, 5, 6 feet of snow back then. The flooding in the spring, a lot of runoff, a lot of water that, the tribe as a community helped out and, sandbagging, prevent flooding coming into our plaza of, Taos Pueblo. And it was a thrill to see community members pulling together and helping each other, not just flood, but snow removal. I remember a time when us kids, 9 of us, 10 of us would hang out and shovel each other's roofs with all the snow that accumulated during the winter. And we'd take turns shoveling each other's rooftops, and so they won't leak of water or anything, and it would dry out. And that was our daily thing, on the weekends we'd help each other out as friends and community, and it was pretty awesome to see to help out each other.
Kids at the high school were extremely competent. I came from Los Angeles. I'd never seen kids like this. They could hunt, kill a deer, dress it out, make adobe bricks, build a house if they had to. They probably couldn't have wired it electrically. They would have needed help for that, but they could build it. They could grow vegetables, chop wood, carry water, fix your car. The toughest kid at the high school, the kid that caused problems, would stop and change your tire if you were on the side of the road. They were sweet, funny, lovely, bright, and I think the greatest blessing in my life, other than my husband, was coming to this little town and teaching school here. It was the best. They were great kids.